This is exercise 4 from the book Seth Speaks, The Eternal Validity of the Soul. And the name of this exercise is Changing the Past in Your Mind. One event can be actualized by more than one probable self, however, and you will resemble some probable selves more than others. Because you are involved in an intricate psychological gestalt such as this, and because the connections mentioned earlier do exist, you can avail yourself to some extent of abilities and knowledge possessed by these other probable portions of your personality. The connections make for quite constant, quote, bleed-throughs, unquote. Once you are aware of the probable system, however, you will also learn to become alert to what I will here call, quote, benign intrusive impulses, unquote. Such impulses would seem to be disconnected from your own current interests or activities. Intrusive in that they come quickly into consciousness with a sense of strangeness as if they are not your own. These can often offer clues of various kinds. You may know absolutely nothing about music, for example, and one afternoon, while in the middle of some mundane activity, be struck by a sudden impulse to buy a violin. Such an impulse could be an indication that another probable portion of your identity is gifted with that instrument. I am not telling you to run off and buy one, but you could, however, act on the impulse as far as reasonably possible. Renting a violin, simply acquainting yourself with the violin, concerto, etc. You would learn the instrument far quicker, you see, if the impulse was originating with the probable self. It goes without saying, then, that probable selves exist in your, quote, future, unquote, as well as your past. It is very poor policy to dwell negatively on unpleasant aspects of the past that you know, because some portions of the probable self may still be involved in that past. The concentration can allow greater bleed-through and adverse identification, because that part will be one background that you have in common with any probable selves who sprang from that particular source. To dwell upon the possibility of illness or disaster is equally poor policy, for you set up negative webs of probabilities that need not occur. You can theoretically alter your own past as you have known it, for time is no more something divorced from you than probabilities are. The past existed in multitudinous ways. You only experienced one probable past. By changing this past in your mind now, in your present, you can change not only its nature, but its effect, and not only upon yourself, but upon others. Pretend a particular event happened that greatly disturbed you. In your mind, imagine it not simply wiped out, but replaced by another event of a more beneficial nature. Now, this must be done with great vividness and emotional validity, and many times. This is not self-deception. The event that you chose will automatically be a probable event, which did in fact happen, though it is not the event that you chose to perceive in your given probable past. Telepathically, if the process is done correctly, your ideal will also affect any people who were connected with the original event, though they can choose to reject as well as accept your version. This is not a book on techniques, so I will not go into this particular method deeply, but merely mention it here. Remember, however, that in a most legitimate way, many events that are not physically perceived or experienced are as valid as those that are, and are as real within your own invisible psychological environment. There are, in your terms then, unlimited probable future events for which you are now setting groundworks. The nature of the thoughts and feelings you originate and those that you habitually or characteristically receive set a pattern, so you will choose from those probable futures those events that will physically become your experience. Because there are bleed-throughs and interconnections, it is possible for you to tune into a, quote, future event, unquote, say of an unfortunate nature, an event for which you are headed if you continue on your present course. A dream about it, for instance, may so frighten you that you avoid the event and do not experience it. If so, such a dream is a message from a probable self who did experience the event. So can a child then, in a dream, receive such communications from a probable future self of such a nature that its life is completely changed. The entire identity is being now. All divisions are merely illusions, so one probable self can hold out a helping hand to another, and through these inner communications, the various probable selves in your terms begin to understand the nature of their identity. Seth adds more about this exercise in The Individual and Nature of Mass Events. Now, in certain terms, the past, present, and future of your present life are all compressed in any given moment of your experience. Any such moment is therefore a gateway into all of your existence. The events that you can recognize as happening now are simply specific and objective, but the most minute element in any given moment's experience is also symbolic of other events and other times. Each moment, then, is like a mosaic, only in your current life history you follow but one color or pattern and ignore the others. As I have mentioned in the other books, you can indeed change the present to some extent by purposefully altering a memory event. That kind of synthesis can be used in many instances with many people. Such an exercise is not some theoretical, esoteric, impractical method, but a very precise, volatile, and dynamic way of helping the present self by calming the fears of a past self. The past self is not hypothetical either, but still exists, capable of being reached and of changing its reactions. You do not need a time machine to alter the past or the future. Such a technique is highly valuable. Not only are memories not, quote, dead, unquote, they are themselves ever-changing. Many alter themselves almost completely without your notice. In his unpublished apprentice novels, Rupert did 2 or 3 versions of an episode with a priest he had known in his youth. Each version, at the time he wrote it, represented his honest memory of the event. The bare facts were more or less the same, and the entire meaning and interpretation of each version differed so drastically that those differences far outweighed the similarities. Because the episode was used on 2 or 3 different occasions, Rupert could see how his memory changed. In most cases, however, people are not aware that memory changes in such a fashion, or the events that they think they recall are so different. The point is that the past events grow. They are not finished. With that in mind, you can see that future lives are very difficult to explain from within your framework. A completed life in your terms is no more completed or done than any event. There is simply a cutoff point in your focus from your framework, but it is as artificial as, basically, perspective is applied to painting. It is not that the inner self is not aware of all of this, but that it has already chosen a framework or a given frame of existence that emphasizes certain kinds of experience over others. Session 806, page 59.